Hi, I'm Jeff Murrow. I want to welcome you to Healthy Marriage Tips, where today we are continuing our series on trauma bonds, and I'll be talking about breaking trauma bond patterns, part 3. Now, this is assuming that you have tuned in for the previous 2 parts, because one of the things in terms of disrupting the patterns and changing them, how the order in which you do it becomes very important. I use the analogy of the bathtub overflowing. That you turn off the water and then you mop the floor. And likewise, if you try some of these interventions out of sequence, it will be like mopping the floor without cutting off the source of the problem. So, assuming that you have taken some of those steps, like separating the past and the present, confronting some of the negative thoughts, learning how to set boundaries, this next step is what you need. I talked about how you need to contain it and then do your intervention. This is part of the intervention. Now, the intervention I want to talk about today is internalizing. What you want to do is to internalize the messages of helpful people. So, if you've come across helpful books or helpful people, or, like for instance, there's pastors, counselors, family members that have been positive in your life. I'm not talking the negative ones. The positive ones, it's almost like you want them to live in your head instead of the negative messages and negative people. If you can go ahead and internalize them, what would my uncle say? What would my aunt say? What would so-and-so say? If you want to, you can even say, what would Jeff say in this situation? I'd be okay with that. Now, for some of you that have struggled with trauma bonds, this is going to be a matter of reject and replace. Rejecting those old negative messages and replace them with positive messages. In your case, you've already shown that you're great at internalizing. The only problem is it's been internalizing the negative messages. Now you want to reject those. Hence, why I was presenting the information about rejecting negative message and now replace. Your mind does not like a vacuum. When you start canceling out those negative messages, you're going to have to replace it with something positive. And in this case, I'm encouraging you to replace it with the positive messages about who you are, what you're doing, your sense of value, your sense of purpose. Rather than going around thinking that you're a piece of garbage or a piece of trash or someone that no one could love, you're going to need to replace that with messages that you are lovable, that you do have value, that you do have worth. I know when I was reading the biography of a woman by the name of Johanna Michelson, earlier on in her childhood, someone gave the tragic message that Jesus couldn't love someone like you. And I thought that was so hurtful. And it haunted her for years. It took her a long time to realize that that was a lie. And then it took her a while to realize that she was lovable and she was acceptable. But many times, those hurtful statements, they rattle around in your head for a long time. This is why you have to reject them and replace them with the truth, with more positive messages. That's why I talked about that yesterday, because now you want to go ahead and take that step of internalizing them and listening to them. And even, in those times that you have those self-talk moments, to go ahead and consider things from that other person's perspective. I mean, you can even use somebody from history who you admire, what would Grandpa Jones think about this situation, or whoever it is that you find helpful. How would Ben Franklin handle it? Even so, I wanted to pass this on to you, and I'll have more about breaking trauma bonds. And I'm presenting a little at a time because in making these transitions and turning your life around, it's going to be taking a series of small steps to turn things around. So until next time, this is Jeff Murrah wishing you best regards, and I hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Goodbye.